Welcome, everybody. Welcome to episode number 133 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I am your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. We call these episodes Fraternity Foodie because there is nothing like great food to bring people together. Now, first and foremost, go check out our new book that we released 2 weeks ago. It's called From Letters to Leaders, Creating Impact on Your College Campus and Beyond. It shot up to #1 new release on Amazon for the college and university category. It's been there all 2 weeks since we've introduced the book, which is amazing. We are blessed for all of your support. If you haven't picked it up on Kindle, it's only $2.99, or you can have the paperback shipped to you for only $9.99. I promise you it is a great investment and a great read. Now, today we have with us Joe Vernace, the Associate Director of the Health Sciences Office of Student Services at Stony Brook University on Long Island. Joseph is a father, a husband. He is experienced, values-driven higher education professional in that order. He is a lifelong student eager to learn. He's eager to grow his skills and find avenues for all of his creativity to flourish, which is why I love Joe and what he's doing. He is guided by a coaching mindset. So he's a developer, he's an advocate, he's an ally with a great deal of heart, love, and passion for students and staff development. Welcome to the show, Joseph.
Thank you so much, Mike. That was a great intro. I appreciate it.
Listen, I can come around the country. I can do intros for you. Whatever work you want, I'm available. You just let me know.
Great. That's great.
So listen, it's great to catch up with you and just to find out what's going on in your life. I just love that part of it. And sometimes I think that's what's kind of been nice about the pandemic. There is that silver lining, which is, this show has taken off and it's given me an opportunity to reconnect with some of the people that have been in my life in the past that I haven't seen in a while, like you. And so I really appreciate that aspect of it, that I get to just have some downtime and 30 minutes to just say, hey, what's up? Like, bring me up to speed. I just want to know what's going on in your life. And so this is one of those moments. For our audience, I know they want to know a little bit about you. You chose Adelphi University for your undergraduate experience. So tell the audience, why was Adelphi the right choice for you?
Yeah. Well, first, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to catch up with you as well. It's been a couple of years since we connected, but yeah. I'm happy to be here and happy to answer these questions. So Adelphi University was definitely the right choice for me when I was applying to college. I had some family issues that I needed to stay local to, and just Adelphi was such a beautiful campus. I remember when I visited it, I instantly fell in love. It's honestly gorgeous. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to be there, but just walking the campus, I instantly fell in love and knew that it was the place for me. And I really so appreciated my time at Adelphi, just becoming the person who I am today. That's really where I laid that groundwork. I met my wife in our first year seminar course, and we've been together ever since then. So we're approaching, quite a long time together. So I really owe Adelphi quite a great debt. It's really one of the better experiences of my life. I joined Pi Lambda Phi International Fraternity. I actually was a founder of their reestablishment there in 2010. And so that's really where I started my fraternal journey and have been involved with that chapter and others ever since. Although I don't work right now in fraternity life, I definitely do a lot of volunteer work. But I was the former director of Greek life and student involvement at another private institution on Long Island. So
yeah, I love that you're proud. Yeah, I love that you're a proud fraternity man. I love that you were a founder, and that doesn't surprise me at all because, I run into founding brothers, founding sisters of organizations, and they're all extremely successful. They're all operating on a very, very high level. So if you do have an opportunity to be a founding father or founding sister, by all means, please go ahead and do that because you will do amazing things in your life. I will promise you that experience is just gold. And you're absolutely right. That campus at Delphi is gorgeous. I speak to people all the time about this question because I'm always curious why people arrived at that decision. That answer comes out very, very often. It's just this feeling that you get. I don't know if the birds were singing that day or the sun was shining extra that day, but it's this feeling that you get when you walk on campus, and you just get that feeling and you're like, this is it. I know this is home. And for Adelphi to not only help you out with your education, but also find your wife, I mean, that's huge right there.
Yeah, it was definitely the right choice. It definitely helped that they gave me quite a nice scholarship. That made the campus that much prettier. But no, it really was a great place for me to start my career and my life, my family, everything. So
yeah, that's awesome. And obviously, we connected when you were spending some time in student involvement. You've also been involved with Res Life, and now you've made this jump to Associate Director, Health Science Office of Student Services at Stony Brook. So I'm wondering, how is this new role that you're in right now, how is that different from the work that you've done in the past?
Yeah, so it's almost like that analogy that every little kid plays soccer. I feel like when you get into student affairs, housing the resident's life is like this rite of passage that we go through. It's one of those positions that you learn a great deal of knowledge and skills within a very short amount of time. And for me, I had enough of that at about 2 years in of being constantly on call, but it was a great experience. I loved working with those students, specifically developing resident assistant staffs and programs. And then I made the switch. I was fortunate enough to find a paying job in fraternity life, which was something that I obviously was so passionate about in my undergraduate experience. And I worked at that institution within fraternity and sorority life for 4 years. And I loved the student population. I could not have been more blessed with the community that I had, specifically the Pan-Hellenic community. They were just great leaders on that campus, real change agents, and just so fortunate to have been able to work with them. For family reasons, I made the jump to student services. After a while, some of that student affairs and student engagement stuff can definitely weigh a toll just on the extra hours that you're working and the weekend duties. And I have a 2-year-old son now, and that's kind of when I decided to make that switch to be more available for him. But I miss it. I miss it every single day. That's why I'm still so involved with my volunteer work with fraternalism. And I'm so happy now to have the opportunity to write about that too in some blog posts, just to stay connected with the field. But I made the jump to student services. I now work with particularly health sciences students at Stony Brook University. And our office really helps them with their admissions process to the university. And then once they're here, we work with them in financial aid and making sure that they're set up for success that way.
I love it. Please stay connected. I love the volunteer roles that you have going with fraternity life. I love the articles, the blogs that you're putting out. I think all of that is great. Please stay involved. I mean, we need more advocates like you. And so, when I saw that you took the new position, of course, I'm happy for you. And yes, having a 2-year-old son changes everything. Believe me, going from where you are today to the point where your son is now going to be a sophomore in high school, which is where I am today.
Wow.
My son is a sophomore in high school, and he's looking at colleges, right? So it will change your life. I mean, there's no question that you look at things very differently as a father than you did before you had a kid. And so I understand completely where you're at. All I would say is just, keep that connection alive, because I know how passionate you are about fraternity and sorority life. And I hate to lose really good people like you, so stay involved some way, somehow. And speaking of which, you made this recent blog post that we've been talking about. It's called 4 Ways for Greek Life Advisors to Start the Process of Adding a New Sorority to Campus. Now, I will be honest with you. Anytime you start talking about extension, that sounds like a daunting process for any professional in the field, okay? So why should professionals and why should campuses go down this road? And also tell us, how long does it usually take from start to finish?
You're not wrong. Extension is really intimidating. It's terrifying. From my personal experience, obviously as a fraternity man, I never had any experience with Pan-Hellenic extension. And I remember it was always in the talks of extending our sorority community. And before, that was before my director left. And then when my director left and I took on her role, the task was really set to me to extend the community. And that was terrifying in and of itself, because I had never gone through it before. But I have to say, as an organized person, I appreciate the beauty of the extension process and the way that the National Pan-Hellenic Conference really set that forth. It's so well guided that you really it's so difficult to do things wrongly that there's really no need to be fearful with anything of the process. It takes a while. I'm not going to lie. It's definitely a long haul. It took me about a year working with our community to see the process through to the end. But just the overall growth that we saw, not just for obviously bringing on that new chapter, but the growth all around for our entire community, the excitement about going Greek on our campus. It's just, you can't match that with anything else that we do in fraternity and sorority life. There's so many positives, not just for that establishing chapter, but for all of the groups. And I understand that they have their own concerns and their own hesitations with voting yes to extension, but I promise you, you can dispel all of that.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, anytime I talk to a student about adding a sorority to their campus or adding a fraternity to a campus, every time they're worried about that event eating into their own numbers, that somehow they're not going to be able to recruit because another group is out there recruiting as well. But the reality is, and you've seen it and I've seen it a million times, it really does rise all of the boats on a particular campus. Everybody's game seems to move up with a new fraternity or a new sorority coming to a campus. And I think that's good for Greek life. I think that's a positive to have that. So that, that's just kind of the way that I look at it. Now, if we have somebody who's listening right now and they're thinking about adding a fraternity or they're thinking about adding a sorority to their campus, what type of data should we be collecting to demonstrate that this is actually a good idea for the campus? And of course, also the NPC area advisor.
Right. So you should definitely be looking at the population that you currently have on campus. What do the demographics look like? How many of your students are already involved in a sorority or fraternity? And then do that time-old equation to figure out who is really your PNM pool. My work with fraternities, we see that they have names lists of 30 or 40 men that they're interested in joining their fraternity, but there are hundreds on their campus that aren't affiliated. Why aren't they part of your names list? So whenever you're looking at a PNM pool, you really want to take your entire student population and do the math. You reduce it by the amount of Greeks that you already have on your campus, take away 50% of your never joiners, and even take another 20% away just to be safe. You're still going to be left with probably hundreds of students that could be joining your fraternity or sorority. And the fact is they haven't yet. And you have to ask that question, why? And it's not to say that there's anything wrong with your fraternities or sororities being offered on your campus, but hey, maybe something else, something new introduced into your system will excite those people to become a part of your community. One of the great things about the fraternity and sorority community is we want you to find a home within our community. Our organizations, yes, would be nice, but so long as we know that you are finding that fulfilling fraternal experience, we're happy for you. We're welcoming you into this community because we understand the benefits of being associated. So you want to look at the statistics of who your current Greek students are and your current student population. You also want to look at your recruitment history. If you are, take sororities, for example, if you are constantly during recruitments meeting quota, all of your chapters are meeting quota, and you're having record numbers of women signing up for Pan-Hellenic recruitment, well, odds are you could probably support another chapter then. That's what we did. We took a look at it and we had years history, 5 years history of our groups hitting quota, being very close to total. And so we said, you know what, we're also seeing record number of women signing up for recruitment. I think it's time. I think we're ready. And that was really key to convincing the rest of the students on campus to vote yes, was making them understand and building their own confidence in the success of their chapters, that you have a history of doing great. We're not going to let you fall to the wayside to bring on another group, right? We're going to support you all together. And like I said before, it's such an exciting time bringing on a new group because you're bringing students out of the woodwork that have never considered joining fraternity or sorority before, not only because of they might like the new group itself, but the opportunity that you were saying earlier about being a founder, what that really means, the opportunities that are provided to you, building a chapter from the ground up in terms of leadership development and personal and professional development. There's just so many benefits to it. It's an exciting time. It really is.
Yeah, I'm jealous that you're a founder. I'll be honest. I will never be a founder. As long as I live, I will never be a founder of a fraternity. And I think you're right. I think it's a wonderful experience. It's a wonderful gift that we can give today's students to be in a fraternity or sorority, or perhaps to be a founder of their organization on their campus. So, I think it's positive all the way around. I would always vote to say yes. We should expand. That's just the way that I feel. I know you share, similar feelings. I just think it's a wonderful thing. And if I can give that gift to more people, why wouldn't I? That's always the way that I feel. How do we, and speaking of this buy-in, right? How do we create campus-wide buy-in among all the groups and all of the councils? Because I do think that existing organizations might feel like the new organization is cutting into their own recruitment numbers. So talk to us about that buy-in.
Yeah, so I think that it's really hard to dispute numbers. So if you have this data that your exploratory committee put together and collected, share that. Don't hide behind it. Use that to your advantage to show the groups that, hey, you can support another group on your campus. Not only the hard data, but showing the support systems that you have on campus built for all of your groups to succeed, whether it's your fraternity sorority advisors within your student involvement office, the other Greek affiliated people on your campus that often go unrecognized because they might not be the most outwardly involved. So really building up that community mindset and support, I think is really important to help create that buy-in. I think that it's can be perceived by some as a negative, but I firmly believe in doing extensions during formal recruitment periods, because I think it helps the students see and understand that you're bringing out these students that would have never joined before, and they have to then be exposed to your groups too. So that's one of the ways to help drive people to the existing chapters as well, is during formal recruitment periods. They're going to sign up for that open house or informational session, right? And they're going to see all of the groups, including the new one that you've decided to bring onto campus. So some people that have never considered fraternity or sorority life before will see your group too and say, wow, this is a great group, and I'm actually going to stay in this current pool of groups to join. So that's another helpful tool.
Yeah, I like that perspective. I think that's a great idea. And there are some campuses out there that might be concerned that they're not looked at as an attractive campus. I think that there's definitely that perspective. So how do you make your campus to be extra attractive to potential NPC groups?
Well, one of the things that we did that was really helpful is we had a very supportive dean of students, and we had an incredibly supportive university president who loved Greek life. We constantly were in front of the board of trustees with our Greek leaders talking about the benefits of fraternalism on campus. And it was just such a supportive community around our Greek students that we were able to advocate to give housing and meal plans to 2 leadership consultants during that establishing first year. So that's a big perk to an NPC group coming to your campus. That's really helpful to them, because let's be honest, an extension's expensive. Yes. If I'm an NPC group and I'm looking to come to a campus, I have to just first decide, is this campus offering exploratory visits? Do I want to spend the money to fly out there just for a campus tour? And then if so, and yes, we're chosen, we're committed, then we have to come and give a presentation and fly back again. And then the expenses and resources just dumped into a chapter to make it successful from that onset. So it's definitely an investment. So they want to see that return on that. So that was one really helpful perk that made us, advantageous to these NPC groups that were looking to expand in our area.
Mm-hmm. I love it. You were very fortunate to have a very pro-Greek life administration where the president is such a big proponent of Greek life. I think that made a big difference for you. But I think also, if you don't have that, let's say in the administration, there aren't a lot of Greek life people, start thinking about alumni initiations. I mean, what a great way to offer membership and to get an advocate is by looking at people who are helping the Greek system on campus and saying, hey, were you ever in a fraternity or sorority? If the answer is no, well, guess what? We have alumni initiations. We do it all the time. And it's a great way to get another advocate, such as the ones that you were talking about in the administration, to support that. So that's one idea that I would offer up. And the other thing is too, when I put on my executive director of a fraternity hat, I will tell you that what you said was very accurate in that, my mandate was always to grow the number of chapters that we had around the country. But as you mentioned, it's extremely expensive. And I think that was the issue for me, was that, yes, we were growing and we were adding all of these chapters, which everyone loves. However, the downside of that is that it's extremely expensive. And that was the trade-off that we made at that time, was to say, we're going to increase the number of chapters. We understand that there's going to be an expense involved. So if you can, as a campus, figure out a way to pay for a couple of our consultants to maybe live on campus, or have a room on campus, or have a meal plan, wow, that takes a huge load off of the headquarters, because we're literally trying to figure out, how do we make this work? We want the new campus, we want the new chapter, but the expense of it, I mean, wow, it's almost cheaper, to be honest with you, to invest in an existing chapter and get them to grow than starting a brand new one, because the expenses are just overwhelming. So anytime you can help with that, that's huge for us. So I appreciate that you said that. I think that's great.
Yeah. And I think that, to help build that support, like you said, if you don't have a campus that really understands, the fraternity system or what it means to be a part of a community, I think that obviously it probably goes without saying, but all of this is that much easier when you have a values-based community. So whether, fraternalism is something that's completely foreign to you, I think for the most part, people understand the values of leadership, philanthropy, service. So if you have a group of men and women on your campus who are dedicated to bettering themselves and bettering their community, that's a lot easier for people to buy into. So I think that goes a long way to have that strong foundation at this core of Extension.
Totally. Now, you mentioned exploratory visits. So for people who are listening, what is an exploratory visit? What is your opinion of exploratory visits for both the potential new group and for the university?
So once you pass that hurdle of saying, yes, we are open for extension, which is quite a hurdle to get through, but once you're at that point, you then have to make the decision that we're going to send out an application to the NPC groups, either through the extension bulletin or through direct outreach. So before you send that application, you have to decide, are we going to be open for exploratory visits, which means you're going to provide NPC groups the opportunity to come to your campus to check out what's going on your campus, the resources, the layout of the land, before they submit that application. And like I said, it's definitely an investment on the NPC group's part, because it does cost money to get people there. But I think it can be helpful. I'm a proponent of exploratory visits. I think that it helps in the later stages of the extension process when people are actually submitting the application. The only thing is, if you're in a crunch as a fraternity sorority advisor, foregoing exploratory visits is your only opportunity to really shorten that timeline, because it is the only optional process of the extension process.
Okay, that is very, very good. Good thoughts there. Now, if you're on a huge university campus with a huge fraternity and sorority system, you probably already have people who are reaching out to you to say that we would love to have a chapter on your particular campus. But maybe somebody who's listening right now is not on a campus like that. And so, maybe they are doing outreach to the organizations directly. So what are some of the pros and cons of doing outreach to organizations directly?
So I could say from my experience, where we did our extension was a small private Long Island based institution. And so our university president, like I had mentioned, was very pro Greek life, but she was from the South, and the Southern fraternity experience is very different from the Northeastern. And so we were also trying to grow the institution as a whole and be more attractive to out-of-state recruits. And so we were intentional in targeting NPC groups that were more prominent in the Southern states, in the Midwest. And so we made direct outreach to those groups first, to be more attractive to the students that we were trying to recruit overall to the university. So one of the pros to direct outreach is that you can be very strategic with who you're contacting, especially if your community has a history with certain groups that is not so positive. So when you send out the extension bulletin, you're automatically alerting all 26 NPC groups to say, hey, University XYZ, we're open for you. And you're supposed to give priority to groups that have some kind of history with your campus. But you might have students within your current population that know the history of that group, who experience the history of that group, and are very much so against those chapters returning. And so by not alerting all of them, you're putting yourself at an advantage to say, you know what, maybe we'll give the campus a bit more time to breathe, and maybe we'll consider them in the next go around. So that's one of the pros there. One of the cons to the direct outreach is that you might face a lot of rejection. You're reaching out to individual NPC groups and they might say to you, no thanks, we're not that interested. And so every time you get told no, it takes obviously more time to do some more outreach. But if you use the bulletin, no one might answer you altogether. And so you're just sitting there twiddling your fingers, hoping that someone gets back to you. So there's definitely pros and cons to each. In my experience, we've done direct outreach, and that was very beneficial for us.
Got it. All right, very good. Now, when you do extension, you want to be able to evaluate the various choices that you have. So what should be on the evaluation form for, let's say, the CPC Extension Committee?
So I would say that you're looking for the right fit. Just like any other employer looking to hire someone, you're basically hiring a group to have a history at your campus. And so you want to make sure that it's the right fit. Do they stand for the same values that you're looking for as a group? I think it really takes a true assessment of your current chapters to say where they're at, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. How will bringing on this group be an advantage? How will they complement the other chapters on our campus? What type of philanthropy are they bringing? Is there a niche for that hasn't been filled before by our current standing chapters? Is there a large alumni presence in the area that will help support this group? Do they have a pan-Hellenic or an interfraternal mindset? I can tell you right now, in my experience, we chose a chapter because when they came to present to our campus, every single person was from a different national NPC group. They weren't just from that one group. So that was, and we had a very pan-Hellenic community at our campus. And so they loved that. They ate that up instantly. So that was like a done deal as soon as they saw that. So you're just looking for someone that really, it's not someone, a group that really embodies the values of your community.
Yeah, that's so interesting. You just gave a golden nugget out there
Yeah.
for anybody doing a presentation. It's to make sure you have some variety in the fraternities and sororities that are represented there. So that's really cool. Now, what do you do if you're in a situation where the presentation has happened and then the students are voting? And what do you do if the vote fails?
You cry a little. No, I'm kidding. You evaluate, you evaluate what happened, why did the vote not fail? The good news did not pass. The good news is that you don't have to start from the very beginning. You've already voted to open for extension, your community. That doesn't just go away, that's still there. And so you just pretty much go back to the last step, which was that outreach step. Do you want to post it in the next extension bulletin whenever that's being published, or do you want to do more direct outreach to those groups? If there was something particular about the groups that came to your campus to present and they weren't picked, discuss those, evaluate those, and maybe you might want to tweak your application a little bit to ask questions about that before wasting anyone else's time. But like I said, the good news is you don't have to start at the very beginning. You've passed that hurdle, you're open for extension, so you could pick it up from there.
This has been very, very helpful. I know that a lot of fraternity men, sorority women are going to be listening to this episode because this is some great background here from somebody who's been there and who's done it. And let me tell you something. Obviously, I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I miss Long Island dearly. I miss the pizza. I miss the bagels. I mean, I can't get anything close to that in Nashville, but we do love good food here at Fraternity Foodie. So I want to know, what is the best place where I need to go and get some good food in the Stony Brook University area the next time I'm back on the island?
So the next time you're in Stony Brook, I really recommend going to the Seaport Deli. It's a little deli and it has the best sandwiches that, it's a pretty outrageous menu. Some of the sandwiches have like French fries and gravy and coleslaw and whatnot, but just go with it. It's delicious. You'll love it. Trust me. Seaport Deli.
Seaport Deli. All right. Listen, I could use a really good deli right now. Another thing I don't have in Nashville that I'm just jealous. I just want to go to a really good deli and have a delicious sandwich. Oh my God, do I miss it? Boy, oh boy. All right. So if a campus has some questions for you about extension, or maybe a fraternity is looking to come on board on a particular campus, they have questions for you. Is there some place on social media where our listeners can go to connect with you?
Absolutely. I'm most active on LinkedIn, but I also created a Twitter very recently. There's not much content on there, but you can also engage with me there too. My handle is @Vernace. I'll put it in the chat. That way you have it to share. But
Awesome. All right. So he's on Twitter at VER_NAH_CHEE on Twitter, or of course you can look him up on LinkedIn. That's usually where I connect with them, Joseph Vernace. Listen, Joe, it has been great catching up with you. I've loved every moment of it. I wish you nothing but success. Good luck with the 2-year-old. This is going to be the best experience you've ever had. And, again, just keep up the great work that you're doing here as a volunteer. Stay involved within fraternity and sorority life. Lord knows we need you and many, many others to help us continue in a positive way to make sure that our fraternities and sororities reflect the values that they were all founded upon. You know this very, very well. And so having more allies like you in the industry is extremely important. So I just want to say that I appreciate you.
thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate all of that. I really do.
Hey, all right. This has been a lot of fun. To our listeners, if you like this, please like it and share it with other fraternity men, sorority women that are thinking about growing your community. Make sure you share it with them. And we hope to see you on another episode of Fraternity Foodie. Thanks so much. Bye for now.